Okay.
Welcome to the Thrive in Sales podcast, the sales training and thriving podcast. Hi, I'm Niraj. I'm an interactive sales trainer and one-to-one coach. I get results for small businesses and deliver training to large corporates like Barclays, NatWest, and Sainsbury's. I'm the author of 2 best-selling books.
And I'm Keith. I've sold technology services into investment banks throughout my career. I've sales led one of the largest ever software outsourcing deals awarded at just over $1 billion. And I'm now a sales coach and a visiting lecturer at Aston Business School.
And every week we'll share proven strategies to help you generate more sales. Plus we'll bring guest experts onto the show to give you the knowledge, the strategies, and the takeaways you need to thrive in sales. Now, this week's topic is prospecting, and our special guest this week is Susan Royle. Now, Susan qualified as a yoga teacher 6 years ago with the Yoga Alliance, and she shows how yoga can be incorporated into our everyday lives, capturing the elegance of the postures and the positive influence a regular practice provides. And Susan also has her own telemarketing company, which I think is probably first among yoga teachers that I know, telemarketing business and yoga. And I think you couldn't have 2 more different and unique roles. And that kind of makes Susan a very smart and quite successful businesswoman, which is one of the reasons we wanted her on this podcast. So Susan, welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
No, so I'm really, really glad to have you here. We met about a year ago at I think it was Catherine's Ignite event.
It was
in
yes.
Northampton, and
Yep.
we sat at the same table. Is that my doorbell or your doorbell? I've no idea.
Not mine.
Well, I'll have to leave it outside, I'm afraid. So we met at Catherine's Ignite event last year. We got on fabulously well. Sorry, what were you saying, Keith?
Catherine, for the benefit of listeners.
Oh, yes. So we met at the Ignite event about a year ago in Northampton. We became great friends. I sponsored you for a charity event where you were doing, and so it's really nice actually to catch up again. So thank you for being here. So new prospecting, it's such an important part of business, and yet most people I find don't prospect until they fail to hit their target, or they think, oh my God, what other clients do I bring on board? And it's a bit too late then. What are your thoughts on prospecting? Do you do much prospecting? Do you just have a funnel that comes in? What's your thoughts and opinions on prospecting? Far away, Susan.
In a nutshell, I've done a lot of networking since I moved to Northamptonshire, which was 2013, which is when I left London. I was an insurance broker in London, and we had to get all our own leads. When I worked in the insurance sector, we had a sales meeting every Monday morning. It's very high targets, and it was quite high pressure. So I was well positioned when I decided to set up my own business. So I decided to start by going networking, getting to know people. And for me, it's been all about relationships. I'd say 90% of my telemarketing clients are from word of mouth.
Oh, fantastic. That's brilliant. So 90% telemarketing is word of mouth. What about yoga?
Exactly the same, actually. I think I was very fortunate that I'd got to know such lovely people, having moved here networking, and got a lot of positive feedback from doing telemarketing and actually getting sales leads and sales for some local businesses. So when I launched the yoga and retreat business, a lot of those people that I'd worked for actually said, you know what, we need to relax as well. So as you said, they're very different, but strangely there was a crossover and a need for everyone to relax as well as go out there and get their clients and get their prospects.
Well, when I started my sales career, it was in telesales, as many sort of sales professionals do, start out in telesales and kind of, well, they would use the phrase work your way up. I'm not sure I necessarily agree with that, because I can assure you telesales is as valuable as any other part of the sales sort of process. But actually, having spent all that time in the telesales, I can assure that yoga and telesales are absolutely required and go hand in hand, because my goodness me, what what a stressful occupation that can be,
Yeah.
from time to time, particularly if you just have a whole morning of no's or worse. So I can imagine the need to be able to, even if it's just 2 minutes, to make yourself more productive for the rest of the day. I can see that as a very great. Tell us a little bit, Susan, about how you might kind of go through something like that.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And I think if only I'd known about all of the yoga and meditation when I first started. I first started in as you said, it was in a call centre working for the RAC, doing their special broking, which was classic cars and high performance vehicles. And it was, very stressful, one call after another, and a lot of no's. And I used to take it quite personally. Whereas I think the beauty of, with age, you start to not take it personally and realize you're telling somebody what you can offer them. If you don't tell them, they're not going to know. And then it's down to them if they need it or not. And if they need it, you want them to buy it from you. And I think dealing with that whole strategy is the important thing, is make it very logical and really talking to them and listening to them and finding out what they really need. Because quite often you can adapt a sale, or you can come back to it later, so it's not lost. But definitely for me, dealing with rejection of the sales was changing my outlook for a minute. So if I'd gone through a load of no's, I'd get up, make a cup of tea, go and stand outside for a couple of minutes, and then come back and sort of reframe and start again. Equally, I don't know about you, but if you get a yes in a long list of telemarketing, quite often you'll get another yes very, very closely following on from that. So it's definitely about the energy as well as all the other things.
But it's the positive mindset, getting that yes in a whole sequence of maybe no's or no answers or voicemails or whatever it happens to be. All of a sudden you get that yes, and it kind of reinforces certain beliefs, and maybe I am good enough for this after all, and all that, what I would call head trash, that we can go through from time to time. So it's really interesting how that one yes leads to perhaps a crescendo of other yeses for the day.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think it's interesting. We started off talking about prospecting. All of a sudden, we've talked about rejection, which is such a valid part of prospecting. And you brought up a really good point, actually, that when you get rejected, I wanted to add a part there. When you get rejected, it doesn't mean they're rejecting you. Quite often, it just means not now. The amount of clients I have, probably 30% of my sales training clients have said no to me at least twice. And because they just simply weren't ready. Of course, the rest of the time you get rejected, it is about you. And it simply means you got to look back and think, okay, what can I improve? Should I have researched the company better? Should I have, did I sound a bit nervous when I called? Did I rush it too much? Did that person maybe have a bad day? It's really important when you get rejected to actually analyze why and not do what a lot of people do, which is go, oh, sales would be a great business if it wasn't for the clients. I hear a lot of people blaming clients for their problems, but a lot of the time it's a salesperson's problem. Yeah. And I'm not just talking about the salesperson, sorry, I mean the business owner, the account manager, anybody who has to sell for a living. Don't always blame the other person. A lot of the time it's you, and it's how you improve. And one thing you said about no's, which I think was great, Susan, mix up a cup of tea, go outside and come back, is rejection. You do take it personally. And even though it has got better with age, I still take it personally because being self-employed, it affects you more. Yeah. And what I do is, I put on an amazing rock song on my earphones, usually Bruce Springsteen, or it's a really bad rejection, Iron Maiden, and I listen to it for 5 minutes and just kind of vent and then get back. Yeah. And the last thing was, when you get a yes, a lot of people celebrate, tell their friends, go on social media, chat to people in the office. It's the worst thing you can do. When you get a yes, pick up the phone straight away, because your energy and your positivity is so high, you're going to get another yes very, very quickly, much, much quicker than you imagined.
No, that's very, very true. Actually, something I do in my sales training, which is probably comes from my yoga side, is when we start the day and they've got a list of 100 people to call, for example, I say to them, how many yeses you're going to get today? And they'll, keep it realistic, don't be, over enthusiastic. But if they say 10, I get them to write down, I will get 10 sales or leads or whatever it is today, sign it and date it, because then their mindset is totally focused on that. And however it works.
No, that's brilliant. That's accountability and it's visualization.
Yeah.
And I'm going to quote Keith Royle here and say, I'm going to steal that for my training because every podcast so far, that's what Keith said. But I am going to steal this because it's such good. I mean, obviously, I prefer to use the word knowledge share, but I'm going to knowledge share this into my training because it's excellent. Really good thing to do.
Don't worry, there'll be other opportunities for theft later on.
There's no IP on that. You're all right.
That's good. Actually, one thing I'm curious about, we've talked a lot about the sales side of things, but let's talk for a moment about the well-being side of things, because getting rejected, especially if you go through a day of entire rejections, you can't just say to somebody, get it together, or what managers used to say, which is man up. Those are the old days. Man up, just deal with it. It's not quite that simple. And the pressure among sales is greater than ever. So what advice do you give on the well-being side of things, Susan, on how best to deal with things when prospecting and getting rejected?
I think when you're in an office environment, it's got to be something quite easy to do, quite quick. I wouldn't suggest a whole yoga sequence. I would give somebody maybe a couple of things to do at their desk, maybe whether it's some breathing, whether it's some stretches, or it might be a couple of minutes meditation. So closing the eyes and just visualizing something that's positive for them. So if I was working with a team, I'd find out what people's thing was that lifted them up, and I would give them a personal meditation to use that was a minute, 2 minutes long, so they could actually do that. But the main thing is, I think, is a change of scenery, whether it's a walk around the office, look out the window, look at a book, listen to some music. It's just changing your outlook for a short time.
But also the just getting up from your desk and going for a walk around, even if it's 20 paces, it does something. It gets the blood pumping again.
Yeah.
It gets the creative juices flowing again. The brain starts functioning again. I don't know if you're familiar with the phrase a pattern interrupt.
Yes.
Well, it interrupts that pattern of certainly getting those. So just getting up, walk around, sit, go, reset, go again. Absolutely, that's just as important. But
it's so important. I'm a big fan of going for a walk, or what I call walk and talks. I know, I think it was last Thursday, Keith, we were speaking. You'd had an entire day of sales training. I had an entire day of sales training. We were both shattered. We didn't want to speak to each other because it was 8 o'clock at night. But I went for a walk, and it was just so refreshing to be able to do that. And it was a different kind of energy than just sitting down at my computer again and having another Zoom call again. And the change of scenery is a big, big deal.
It's knowing, I think it's recognizing yourself, because we've all got different levels of tolerance and how much we can deal with in one day. I think it's recognizing when you need a break. So I say to people, when you recharge your phone, recharge yourself. It doesn't have to be yoga or meditation. It can be whatever takes you out of yourself and something where you don't think about anything else. For me, it's singing. Quite often I'm so busy concentrating on the notes and the timing and the words and the tune and everything else, I can't think about anything else. I can't think about sales or how many people have I got coming on a retreat or whatever it might be. I'm focusing in that moment alone, and that's it. And your brain has time then to just get a little bit of space.
That's a great shout. So can I ask you, you mentioned something which really, if I had known the answer to this next question 20 years ago, maybe even better now. But so how do you recognize when you need a break? What's going on? What are you thinking or not thinking? What are the signs?
I'm generally, I say this and everyone tells me I'm a very positive person. So when I start to get a bit negative, a bit grumpy, a bit impatient, easily distracted, I know it's time to go and take a break. And I'm the world's worst for just getting something finished. I'll just get this finished. I'll just do another one. But actually, by having that break, you come in with a totally refreshed, positive attitude. And if you're busy doing something as well, one of my things, I have to have water by me all the times. Otherwise, I don't drink enough. And again, that's brilliant for focus and keeping going. So keep hydrated, and if you start to get a bit tetchy, take a break.
It's actually amazing how much of sales and well-being is actually common sense.
Yeah.
I mean, common sense isn't common practice, but I rarely see bottles of water. I mean, again, this is experience. You know, bottle of water.
See, we're all on it.
Water, you know, that's experience. But so many people, they will literally reach, and I've seen this so many times, even recently in offices, they will go for a third Red Bull or another Monster or another cup of coffee, and by lunchtime they've had 3 or 4, and then they have another one in the afternoon, and it's like, you're going to burn out by 4 o'clock. And I see a lot of people in their 30s really who look like they're in their 40s sometimes because they just haven't taken care of themselves. And that's very interesting. I mean, what other trends do you see happening in prospecting at the moment? Because I see a lot of people, especially since we've been in lockdown for 8 weeks, a lot of people seem to be very hesitant about prospecting at the moment. They seem to feel, well, it's not really the right time, and you know, we really should be doing this, and people have no money, so I'll just wait until people do have money. I have very strong opinions on that, and I'm keen to know what your opinions are, Keith.
Oh, me, right. Okay, so well, there are all sorts of things that you can do. I have noticed that, first of all, I think it's more acceptable to be making cold calls now than, for instance, when that person rang me up the Tuesday morning after Boris announced the lockdown. Literally at 8:30, I got a cold call from someone, which I was still in shock after, you know, probably one of the greatest historic moments of the last 70 years just happened the night before, and I got a cold call. I just wasn't there. I almost had to sort of push back a little bit. Are you sure you should be cold calling? But the salesperson in me almost admired the fact that they still continued to pick up the phone. And actually, it is about making connections with people. So I put that aside. But there are a lot of, okay, we can't go face-to-face networking just at the minute. But there are lots of virtual networking opportunities. I got a call just a couple of hours ago from, I'm an active member of the Birmingham Chamber of Commerce, and there's a great opportunity for a retweet there, I feel sure, from Paul Faulkner and co. So, but they said to me, we're having a networking session tomorrow. We'd love to have you along. There'll be 8 or 9 other people. You get a chance to not particularly pitch necessarily, but you know, to engage with each other, and good things will come from that. So there are still opportunities. Cold calling is really important. It will always have its place, I believe. But there are other ways, and people receive messages in different ways. So it's not about you and what you're comfortable with, although that plays a part. I'm sure it's about the other person, the other end of the phone or the other end of the screen, and what they're comfortable with. And you know, yesterday was a no, but tomorrow could be a yes. And if you have a really professional call, as I'm sure you and your team do, Susan, you still make an impression, whether it was yes or a no, you still made an impression. If it's a really positive impression, then the road is clear for another approach to happen at some stage that hopefully you've agreed with the customer anyway.
Superb. And what about yourself then, Susan? I mean, what do you do in terms of, are you happy to prospect now? Do you say to your telemarketing company, guys, get on the phone no matter what? Or what are your thoughts on this?
No, I think at the moment, totally different approach. A lot more sensitivity out there, depending on what the companies are selling as well. And I have to, in this time that we're in at the moment, I have to put myself into the prospect's position. So I think, how would I feel right now if I got a call about this? Even if I needed it, how would I feel? And I think a lot of people are very cautious, very uncertain about what's happening. So the calls that I am doing at the moment are, I'm letting you know that this is available. I appreciate this is very uncertain times. So I'm being very much aware of how I'd feel if I got a call. And if I got a lovely call like that, I'd be, thanks very much for letting me know, send me some details. They're there then for whatever happens in the coming weeks. And knowing I had a really gentle, informative call with someone that was understanding, had empathy, and was listening to what I was saying, if I need that product, I will go back to them. So I'm not phoning and selling anything. I'm phoning and telling them it's there if they need it. And that's working at the moment. So
and you can certainly do that over the phone. I'm getting more emails than I've ever had in my life. I'm unsubscribing from more people than I've ever done in my life, because every email is the same. I hope you're well in unprecedented times. And they just talk about their product. Yeah. There's no understanding about my needs whatsoever at all. It's just them throwing as much as they can out there and hoping something sticks. Yeah. And with my business and a lot of people's businesses, it doesn't work like that, especially smaller businesses. No. What you do is very tailored to a particular individual. And you can only do that when you pick up the phone and talk to somebody. Yeah. Also, things like tone come across so much better on phone. It's very hard to get tone right in an email sometimes, but you can do on a phone. I'm curious because, a lot of people are going through a tough time, not just now, but you can go through a tough time over the summer when people are on holiday. You can go through a tough time at Christmas when nobody for 2 weeks takes calls because of Christmas parties. Or you can go through a tough time in January when nobody wants to make any decisions for at least a few weeks. Yeah. When people come to you stressed out in the business world, how do you help them?
I would basically have a chat with them one-to-one, because I need to understand really what it is, because sometimes people think it's a certain thing but it's something else. So it's initially getting to the bottom of what it is, and then I would suggest either a personal meditation, coming on one of the retreats, having a one-to-one yoga session. And quite often at the moment I've had quite a lot of people come to me and they want restorative relaxation and yoga nidra, which is helping relax, be in that kind of dream state. So it just is helping their body relax and their nervous system do what it needs to do. So everyone's very different. Some people want a hard workout. Some people want to just be able to relax and switch off. Some people want the group environment online because they want the connection. So it's finding out what you are missing right now and what you really need.
That is so great. The best thing you said there was, everything you said was very good, but clients often come to you with one thing and it turns out it's something else. Yeah. A number of times clients call me saying, Niraj, you need to help train us to close more deals. And I spend time with them. The problem isn't closing deals. Closing deals isn't that difficult. The problem is they're not opening deals. They're not engaging. They're not saying the right thing. Their PowerPoint presentations are just full of text and too many slides. It's quite interesting that, again, that's the whole personal approach again. And why you need to be personal in business, especially in small business. Be personal, be human, and more people will connect with you. That really makes a big difference. Keith, is there anything else you wanted to add to that at all?
Well, you mentioned closing there, and I have to say, after 30 years in the profession, that I'm as guilty as this as any other. I always, it used to be, Niraj, and we're not that far apart in terms of age, but it used to be you have to have 75 different closes, and you have to.
Yeah, that's right. And the trial close, the hard close.
Yeah, exactly. And some of that's still with us, but actually, closing should be just a natural conclusion of a positive connection or experience, shouldn't it? It should be, but that's sales done really well. And unfortunately, and we'll come on to other episodes later on as well, the bar to enter the sales profession has been too low for too long. We've got to raise that bar. But closing per se shouldn't just be a new hat that you put on. Now I'm going to start closing. It should be, the conditions are there throughout the conversation, and that conversation that could be 2 minutes on the phone, it could be 18 minutes, or it could be 18 months. I beg your pardon, in and out of boardrooms and everything in between. So to a certain extent, we're always closing, always qualifying, all those things. But it should be to Susan's point, kind of sensitive, respectful, all of those things, but discovering information and not showing up and throwing up, as just too often happens. I'll just get down off my pedestal now.
Us sales trainers, we love to get on our pedestals. We really do. Okay, well, look, such an important part of sales training. It's not just talking about things that will help you. It's having takeaways, and it's taking action. Because when you take action, that's when you go to another level. It's not just the learning, which is very important. It's going to the next level. So I want to share some takeaways with our listeners here. So from a well-being point of view, you've got breathing, stretching, meditation, a change of scenery when times are tough, going for a walk, making a cup of tea. I think this is actually fantastic from a well-being perspective. In terms of rejection, don't take it personally, even though it's very easy to do that. I think it's very important that if you do get rejected, understand two things. Quite often, no means not now, but also if you do get rejected, you have to understand sometimes what could you have done better. Not the client, don't blame the client, but yourself. Keith, I'm sure I've been writing down so many notes here. I missed out a few things. What can you add to that at all, please?
Yeah, well, the thing that really resonated with me was kind of recognizing when you yourself need a break, and that may or may not be after a no. It's just when you're I'm paraphrasing now, Susan, but when your behavior starts changing, if you're super positive and you start being a little bit cynical or a little bit negative, maybe you need that checkup from the neck up, as the phrase goes, and you need to maybe just break, even if it's for 2 minutes, make that cup of tea, get a breath of fresh air, go back up, hit the phones again, or whatever you were doing, but just kind of reset your mindset, if you like. That really, really resonated. Love that. Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you. Well, it's worked for me, and I've been doing it quite a long time now, dare I say.
Is there anything else you want to add before we wrap the show up? Is there anything else you wanted to add in terms of well-being or in terms of sales and prospecting at all, Susan?
I think the most important thing as far as well-being goes is listen to yourself, listen to your body, be aware if you're tensing up, be aware if you're not breathing properly. Sometimes if you're sitting at your desk rushing or panicking, we kind of hold our breath, and then we feel a bit strange and we're not concentrating as we should be. And people can hear that in our voice. And I think as far as the sales side goes, for me, it's definitely about keeping in contact, following up when you say you're going to follow up, not forgetting, and relationships, and asking for referrals from the clients that are pleased with what you've done for them today.
That's come up in almost every show so far, the importance of referrals.
Yeah.
Americans are fantastic at asking for them. British, we're so reserved. I call myself British. I mean, I'm half Irish, but maybe that's why maybe it's the Irish part of me that asks for referrals, because I do ask for them a lot, especially now. Yeah. I want, because the best way to get business is to get referrals. I think it's very, very good. Last point, Susan, how can our listeners get in touch with you?
My website is tranquilitytime, all one word, .co.uk. I'm also under the same name on Facebook and Instagram. And if anyone wants to come to my retreat next weekend, it's all about grounding and balancing.
That's fantastic. Look, thank you so much for your time. Keith and I are incredibly grateful. And if you have any questions or any points you want to raise in future shows, or if you want to hire Keith and Niraj, talking myself in the third person here, if you want to hire Keith or myself for future sales training, please email us, hello@thriveinsales.com. We'd love to hear from you. Also, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode.
This episode has been brought to you by Monkey Pants Productions, who are a podcast production company helping businesses enter the world of podcasting through bespoke workshops and professional standard recordings. For more information, email pete@monkeypantsproductions.co.uk. So
Keith and I are both massive fans of the TV show Frasier. So until next Wednesday, thank you for joining us, and we're wishing you good sales mental health. We'll get that in sync one day. I know we will. But thank you so much, and thank you everybody for listening. Thanks so much, Susan.
Thank you. Pleasure. Bye.